Hello students, I am Dr. Harpreet Kaur from Army Institute of Law. The topic for the day is Right to Education and National Education Policy and Analysis. Introducing the topic, education is fundamental for achieving full human potential, developing an equitable and just society, and promoting national development. Providing universal access to quality education is the key to India's continued ascent and leadership on the global stage in terms of economic growth, social justice and equality, scientific advancement, national integration and cultural preservation. Universal high quality education is the best way forward for developing and maximizing our country's rich talents and resources for the good of the individual, the society, the country and the world. India will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade, and our ability to provide high quality education opportunities to them will determine the future of our country. The Global Education Development Agenda reflected in the Goal 4 of the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development adopted by India in 2015-5666 to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promotes lifelong learning opportunity for all by 2030. Such a lofty goal will require the entire education system to be reconfigured and to support the foster learning so that all of the critical targets and goals of the 230 Agenda for Sustainable Development can be achieved. The world is undergoing rapid changes in the knowledge landscape with various dramatic scientific and technological advances such as the rise of big data, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Many unskilled jobs worldwide may be taken over by machines, while the need for a skilled workforce, particularly involving mathematics, computer science and data science, in conjunction with multidisciplinary abilities across the sciences, social sciences and humanities, will be increasingly in greater demand. With climate change, increasing pollution and depleting natural resources, there will be a seizable shift in how we meet the world's energy, water, food and sanitation needs, again resulting in the need for new skilled labor, particularly in biology, chemistry, physics, agriculture, climate science and social science. The growing emergence of epidemics and pandemics will also call for collaborative research in infectious disease management and development of vaccines, and the resultant social issues heightens the need for multidisciplinary learning. Indeed, with the quickly changing employment landscape and global ecosystem, it is becoming increasingly critical that children not only learn but more importantly learn how to learn. Education thus must move towards less content and more towards learning about how to think critically and solve problems, how to be creative and multidisciplinary, and how to innovate, adapt and observe new material in novel and changing field. Pedagogy must evolve to make education more experiential, holistic, integrated, inquiry driven, discovery oriented, learner centered, discussion based, flexible and of course enjoyable. The curriculum must include basic arts, craft, humanities, game, sports and fitness, language, literature, culture and values, in addition to science and mathematics, to develop all aspect and capability of learners and make education more well-rounded, useful and fulfilling to the learner. Education must build character, enable learners to be ethical, rational, compassionate and caring, while at the same time prepare them for gainful, fulfilling employment. The gap between the current state of learning outcome and what is required must be bridged through undertaking major reforms that bring the highest quality, equity and integrity into the system from early childhood care and education through higher education. The aim must be for India to have an education system by 2040 that is second to none, with equitable access to the highest quality education for all learners regardless of social or economic background. This National Education Policy 2020 is the first education policy of the 21st century and aims to address the many growing development imperative of our country. This policy proposes the revision and revamping of all aspects of the educational structure, including its regulation and governance, to create a new system that is aligned with the aspirational goal of 21st century education, including SDG 4, while building upon India's tradition and value system. Meaning of education. The word education came from the Latin word edesure, meaning to lead out. Eduquere referred to bring up or to nourish, whereas the word eduquere means to bring forth or to drag out. Some other believes that word has been derived from another Latin word educatum, which has two components. E implies a movement from the inward to outward, and deco refers to developing or progressing. An analysis of these words reveal that education aims at providing a learner or a child a nourishing environment to bring out and develop the latent potentiality hidden inside him. It is indeed difficult to define education. Education is a relentless process of becoming. Education is a basis for development and empowerment for every nation. It plays a vital role in understanding and participating in day-to-day activities of today's world. It builds one's character and plays a significant role in transmitting one's culture, belief and values to others in society. It helps in creating innovations and meeting the growing needs of every nation. The development of a nation is not measured through the buildings it has built, the roads it has laid down, the bridges it has constructed, but by the human resources the nation was developed through a well-defined system of education. Although the physical facilities are usually important, they are perishable and valuable. In the absence of proper education, the nation can hardly develop these and maintain them. Education is therefore more crucial factor not only to equip the new generations with skills so essential for earning a livelihood, but also to create among them an awareness to social and environmental realities and inculcate in them scientific temper, independence of mind and spirit, which are of paramount importance for them to become responsible citizens. History of National Policy of Education in India. National Policy of Education is a policy formulated by the Government of India to promote education amongst Indian people. The policy covers elementary education to colleges in both rural and urban India. The first National Policy of Education was promulgated by the Government of India by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in 1968, the second by Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi in 1986 and the third by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2020. First National Policy on Education 1968. First such policy had come in 1968 under Indira Gandhi government. Prior to this policy, a resolution in Lok Sabha was moved in 1964 by Congress MP Siddheshwar Prasad, who criticized the government for not paying enough attention to education and centre lacked a uniform vision and definite philosophy for education. The government of the day agreed that there should be a national and coordinated policy towards education. The government then set up a 17-member education commission under UGC chairperson D.S. Kothari, that is known as Kothari Commission. On the basis of the recommendations of the Kothari Commission, the first national education policy was released in 1968. This policy had called for a national school system, which meant that all students, irrespective of caste, creed, sex, would have access to education of a comparable quality up to a given level. Further, it envisaged a common educational structure which was accepted across the country, and most of us have studied under that system. It also advocated use of mother tongue as a medium of teaching in early school years. Another major call was strengthening the research in the universities. The next policy is National Policy of Education 1986. The Parliament adopted the National Policy on Education in 1986. It was reviewed twice, once by the committee under Acharya Ramurthy in May 1990 and another time in July 1991 under the chairmanship of Shri N. Janardana Reddy. The National Policy of Education was submitted in January 1992. Finally, in a meeting held on 5th and 6th May 1992 by the Central Advisory Board of Education, the National Policy of Education 1986 and Program of Action 1992 laid down the objectives and features of the Indian education policy. It includes development of international cooperation and peaceful coexistence through education. Promotion of equality. It could be achieved by providing equal access and equal condition of success to children. A common educational structure 10 plus 2 plus 3 for the whole of India. Education for women equality. The Indian education should be used as a tool to change the status of women in the society. Equalization of SC population with other in the matter of education. This is ensured by giving incentive to parents who send their children to school, providing scholarship to SC students for higher studies, reservation of seats in institution of higher studies in India, recruitment of SC teachers. Opening of primary schools in tribal area for promotion of education in ST people. Development of curriculum and study material in the language of tribal people. Emphasis on the education of minorities, adult education, initiation of National Literacy Mission for teaching illiterate people of age group of 15 to 35 and making them aware of the day-to-day realities of their surroundings. Special emphasis on early childhood care and education by opening up of daycare centers, promotion of child-focused program. Increasing the scope of Operation Blackboard for upliftment of standard of primary education in India. Strengthening of science education for the development of spirit of inquiry and objectivity in the minds of students. The purpose of examination to be to bring about qualitative improvement in the education. It should discourage memorization, method of teacher recruitment to be recognized, one to ensure merit and objectivity in the system. Overhauling of the system of teacher education and establishment of District Institute of Education and Training to organize courses for elementary school teacher. Reviewing of educational developments by the Central Advisory Board of Education, involvement of local communities for school improvement program. Review of the implementation of the parameters of the policy every 5 years. Strengthening the base of pyramid of Indian population for proper development of education system in India. The National Policy of Education 1986 had a target to evolve such a system of education in which, apart from moving towards establishment of common educational structure for the whole country, the elements which will go into the system will cut across several areas and will promote values such as India's common cultural heritage, egalitarianism, democracy and secularism, equality of the sexes, protection of the environment, removal of social barriers, inculcation of scientific tempers. Also, it mentioned the new policy will lay emphasis on the removal of disparities and to equalize educational opportunities by attending to the specific needs of those who have been denied equality so far. It gave a space to all women, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, handicapped, minorities, adult education, etc. It gave new dimensions to distance education through open universities, Indira Gandhi Open University, establishment of State Open University, Rural University, technical and management education, innovative research and development, rationalization of education, etc. Program of Action 1992. National Policy of Education 1992 laid down many objectives for the development of education system in India, but it has not been successful in achieving all of them. It has specified that the examination system should be discouraged the memorizing, but it is what is going on. The education in India seems to encourage rote learning instead of experimentation and questioning. There is some disparity in assessment as all the state boards have different standards of evaluation. The center and state both have a say on education system, but the privatization of education has some different goals. Summary of previous policies. The implementation of the previous policies on education has focused largely on issues of access and equity. The unfinished agenda of the National Policy on Education 1986, modified in 1992, is appropriately dealt within this policy. A major development since the last policy of 86 and 92 has been the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009, which laid down legal underpinning for achieving universal elementary education. Principles of this policy. The purpose of the education system is to develop good human beings capable of rational thought and action, possessing compassion and empathy, courage and resilience, scientific temper, and National Education Policy 2020, creative imagination with sound ethical meaning and values. It aims at producing engaged, productive and contributing citizens to build an equitable, inclusive and plural society as envisaged by our Constitution. A good education institution in one in which every student feels welcomed and cared for, where a safe and stimulating learning environment exists, where a wide range of learning experiences are offered, and where good physical infrastructure and appropriate resources conducive to learning are available to all students. Attaining this quality must be the goal of every educational institution. However, at the same time, there must also be seamless integration and coordination across the institution and across all stages of education. National Policy of Education 2020. The National Policy of Education 2020 was released on July 30, 2020. The Ministry of Human Resource Development had constituted a committee for drafting the National Education Policy in June 2017. The committee submitted a draft NEP for public consultation in May 2019. The NEP has replaced the National Policy on Education 1986. Education policy lay particular emphasis on the development of creative potential of each individual. It is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacities, both the foundational capacities of literacy and numeracy and higher order cognitive capacity such as critical thinking and problem solving, but also social, ethical and emotional capacities and disposition. Guidelines of the National Policy 2020. The fundamental principle that will guide both the education system at large as well as individual institutions within it are recognizing, identifying and fostering the unique capability of each student by sensitizing teachers as well as parents to promote each student's holistic development in both academic and non-academic spheres. According to the highest priority to achieving foundational literacy and numeracy by all students by grade 3. Flexibility so that learners have the ability to choose their learning trajectories and programs and thereby choose their own path in life according to their talents and interests. No hard separations between art and sciences, between curricular and extracurricular activities, between vocational and academic streams, etc., in order to eliminate harmful hierarchies among and silos between different areas of learning. Multidisciplinarity and a holistic educational approach, the science, social sciences, arts, humanities and sports for a multidisciplinary world in order to ensure the unity and integrity of all knowledge. Emphasis on conceptual understanding rather than rote learning and learning for exam. Creativity and critical thinking to encourage logical decision making and innovation. Ethics and human constitutional values like empathy, respect for other, cleanliness, courtesy, democratic spirit, spirit of service, respect for public property, scientific temper, liberty, responsibility, pluralism, equality and justice. promoting multilingualism and the power of language in teaching and learning. Life skills such as communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience. Focus on regular formative assessment for learning rather than the summative assessment that encourage today's coaching culture. Extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, removing language barriers, increasing access for Divyang students, and educational planning and management. Respect for diversity and respect for the local context in all curriculum, pedagogy and policy, always keeping in mind that education is a concurrent subject. Full equity and inclusion as the cornerstone of all education decision to ensure that all students are able to thrive in education. System synergy in curriculum across all levels of the education from early childhood care and education to school education to higher education. Teachers and faculty as the heart of the learning process. Their recruitment, continuous professional development, positive work environments and service condition. A light but tight regulatory framework to ensure integrity, transparency and resource efficiency of the educational system through adult and public disclosure, while encouraging innovation and out-of-the-box ideas through autonomy, good governance and empowerment. Outstanding research as a core request for outstanding education and development. Continuous review of progress based on sustainable research and regular assessment by educational expert. National Education Policy 2020, a rootedness and pride in India and its rich, diverse, ancient and modern culture and knowledge system and tradition. Education is a public service. Access to quality education must be considered a basic right of every child. Substantial investment in a strong, vibrant public education system as well as the encouragement and facilitation of true philanthropic private and community participation. Ideology of the policy. The National Education Policy envisions an education system rooted in Indian ethos that contributes directly to transforming India, that is Bharat, sustainably into an equitable and vibrant knowledge society by providing high quality education to all and thereby making India a global knowledge superpower. The policy envisages that curriculum and pedagogy of our institution must develop among the student a deep sense of respect towards the fundamental duties and constitutionalism value, bonding with one's country and a conscious awareness of one's role and responsibility in a changing world. The vision of the policy is to instill among the learner a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought but also in spirit, intellect and deed, as well as to develop knowledge, skill and values and disposition that support responsible commitments to human rights, sustainable development and living and global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen. The National Education Policy 2020 was released on July 30, 2020. The Ministry of Human Resource Development had constituted a committee for the drafting of the National Education Policy in June 2017. This committee submitted a draft NEP for public consultation in May 2019. The NEP will replace the National Policy on Education 1986. Guidelines of Policy for Higher Education. Increasing of GER. The NEP aims to increase the GER in higher education to 50% by 2025. Institution will have the option to run open distance learning and online program to improve access to higher education, which will improve GER in the country. Restructuring of institution. All higher education institutions will be restructured into three categories. Research universities focusing equally on research and teaching, teaching universities focusing primarily on teaching, and degree granting colleges primarily focusing on undergraduate teaching. All such institutions will gradually move towards full autonomous academy, administrative and financial. All HEIs should eventually be transformed into large multidisciplinary universities and colleges with 3,000 or more students. By 2030, there should be one multidisciplinary HEI in or near every district. Multidisciplinary education. The curricula, all HEIs should be made multidisciplinary to integrate humanity and arts within science, technology, engineering and mathematics. The undergraduate degree will be made more flexible with multiple exit options with appropriate certifications. For example, students will receive certificate after 1 year diploma, after 2-year bachelor degree, after 3 years bachelor's with research degree after 4 years. Further, an academic bank credit will be established to digitally store academic credit earned from various HEIs be forwarding degrees based on credit. HEIs will have the flexibility to offer different designs of master's program. The MPhil program will be discontinued. Regulatory structure. The regulatory structure of higher education in India will be overhauled to ensure that the distinct functioning of regulation, accreditation, funding and setting academic standards are performed by separate independent bodies. This will minimize conflict of interest and eliminate concentration of power. To ensure this, the Higher Education Commission of India will be set up with 4 independent verticals: the National Higher Education Regulatory Council as a single regulator, including teacher education, excluding legal and medical education; the National Accreditation Council for accreditation of education; the Higher Education Grant Council for financing of higher education institution; and General Education Council for specifying the curriculum framework and learning levels of higher education. Dispute between the 4 verticals will be resolved by the body of experts under HECI. Improving research. The committee observed that investment on research and innovation in India is only 0.69% of GDP compared to 2.8% in USA. 4.2 in South Korea and 4.3 in GDP. In Israel, the NEP recommends setting up an independent national research foundation for funding and facilitating quality research in India. Specialized institution which currently funds research such as the Department of Science and Technology, Indian Council of Medical Research will continue to fund independent projects. The foundation will collaborate with such agencies and avoid duplication. Concluding my topic, a new education policy aimed to facilitate an inclusive, participatory and holistic approach which takes into consideration field experiences, empirical research, stakeholder feedback as well as lessons learned from best practices. It is a progressive shift towards a more scientific approach to education. The prescribed structure will help to cater the ability of the child stages of cognitive development as well as social and physical awareness. If implemented in its true vision, the new structure can bring India at par with the leading countries of the world. Improving research, the committee observed that investment on research and innovation in India is only 0.69% of GDP compared to 2.8% in USA, 4.2% in South Korea and 4.3% of GDP in Israel. The NEP recommends setting up an independent national research foundation for funding and facilitating quality research in India. Specialized institutions which currently fund research such as Department of Science and Technology, Indian Council of Medical Research will continue to fund independent projects. The foundation will collaborate with such agencies to avoid duplication. A new education policies aim to facilitate an inclusive, participatory and holistic approach which take into consideration field experience, empirical research, stakeholder feedback as well as lessons learned from the best practices. It is a progressive shift towards more scientific approach of education. The prescribed structure will help to cater the ability of the child stages of cognitive development as well as social and physical awareness. If implemented in its true vision, the new structure can bring India at par with the leading countries of the world. Thank you and have a nice day.